Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating this pre-event of Yokohama Week. My name is Kazunari Kudo, Secretariat of Asia Smart City Conference. Today, this is going to be the second session of the Yokohama Week of the first day. And this is the pre-event of Asia Smart City Conference, which will be held on January 18th next year. And the session of today is we are going to discuss about smart cities in Asia. The smart city initiatives and challenges in Asia will be introduced. And today we have three distinguished panelists from international organizations. I would like to call first Mr. Victor Muras from World Bank. Hello, Victor.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you for joining today. And I'd like to call Ms. Alison Woodruff from Asian Development Bank. Hello, Alison.
Hi, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining. And also I'd like to call Picha-san from Asian Development Bank Institute. Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. And today at this session, we are going to speak in English, and also the simultaneous interpretation will be available. So if you choose Japanese, you can always listen to the interpretation in Japanese. So first, flow of the session today is that we are going to have each presenter, that Victor, Alison, and Picha-san, make a presentation on their own theme with regards to smart cities. And first, we like to start from Victor. Are you ready?
Yes, let me share the screen.
Yes.
And hopefully it works. Let me see if I can do it.
Yes.
Okay, well, I try to do it. I had a presentation for this moment, but
do you want us to flip the
I have it.
Okay,
Don't worry.
good.
Can you see it?
Yes.
All right.
Perfect.
Because it was hidden in other slides. Sorry about that. So thank you very much, Kudo. I'm gonna make a brief presentation to talk about the two topics specifically. The first one is to introduce the Tokyo Development Learning Center, which is based in Tokyo, and it's a partnership between the World Bank and the Japanese government. And after that, I will explain with an example what are the urban challenges that we see in developing countries and how disruptive technologies can be applied to solve these urban challenges, with an example of a project where the World Bank partnered with disruptive technology providers. So I'll start very briefly about the program that I'm the team lead in Tokyo. The Tokyo Development Learning Program is, as I said, a partnership with the government of Japan. It was launched in 2004, and it's a global knowledge hub that we have based here in Japan to connect Japanese expertise with urban developing challenges across the world. We work with best practices and solutions from Japan to try to solve those challenges. We have several ways of doing that, but primarily we work with Japanese cities like Yokohama, and we do it to identify and codify and distill the project level experiences, the practical experiences, and other knowledge through a program that we call Cities Partnership Program, where we partner with several cities in Japan. We also accelerate projects through very intense one-week cohort-based knowledge sharing programs, where we identify urban challenges across our portfolio through the World Bank, and we bring the projects that are being designed or close to implementation, beginning implementation, to actually increase, accelerate their design or accelerate their implementation. And we do that by bringing Japanese expertise and other global expertise. We also operationalize the knowledge that is learned through these programs and that is gathered through the City Partnership Program. And we support projects in their way as a follow-up of those acceleration process or as ad hoc request. And what we do there is to partner the Japanese and global best practice or expertise with the project on the field. And finally, we work on generating frontier knowledge, particularly from Japan, and leveraging the Japanese network of experts that we have. This is an example of a session we're having with Tokyo Corporation on the new development of Shibuya and the new urban concepts that we're being applying to that, given COVID pandemic in the redevelopment of the core of Shibuya city. So that's to give you a brief overview. We have supported in the last 4 years, which is the phase 3 of the program, and now we have just started phase 4. We just closed this phase 3. We have supported around a portfolio of $61 billion of lending in around 80 countries, with 28 technical deep dives, which are those cohort-intensive trainings that we do with over 1,400 participants in 80 countries. And we have done also around 104 operational support activities on the field in countries. We've done that with the help of cities in Japan. And this is the 5 cities where we have a memorandum of understanding, but we collaborate also with more cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and others. And Yokohama has been a critical city of this partnership. And just to give you an example of areas that we have engaged with Yokohama, is particularly in urban design, citizen engagement, and urban regeneration. We collaborate with ASEAN Smart City Conference since 2016, and we plan to continue doing so because it's a good forum to connect Japanese expertise and Asian cities. And we work in different trainings, specialized trainings in smart cities, competitive cities, affordable housing. And we publish and develop specific codify specific tools from Yokohama, including a knowledge source book from all the urban best practices from Yokohama, and interesting methodologies like the city sketch methodology for urban design. So here's an example of things that we work with different cities, in this case with Yokohama. Now, we do that primarily on cities, and we are talking now about smart cities, which is addressing urban challenges with the help of technology. So I'm gonna now give an overview of an example of how this is done on the ground. What are the kind of urban challenges that we see, and then how they can be solved with disruptive technologies in a context of developing countries. So as we all know, we are facing a trend towards urbanization. We have already 55% of the population in urban areas, and we know it's going to grow more and more, especially in Asia. And that comes with challenges. We have growth of informal settlements, lack of affordable housing, pressure on all the services of the city. But at the same time, there are opportunities, because we know the cities create, they are the hub of the global economy, and provide a lot of opportunities for education and growth and employment for the population. So we need to support those cities as they grow fast, and we need to see how to best help them to manage this increased flow of population to the cities that are putting a lot of pressure on their services, but to do it efficiently, right? Because budgets are not increasing. So one way to do that is through technologies and increase productivity on the delivery of the services. So I'm going to take you to this example that I wanted to highlight. We can discuss more later on the Q&A, but for that we need to travel outside Asia, and we're going to go to Zanzibar, Tanzania. And basically what you see in Zanzibar, it's a nice location. You probably know it because of tourism. It's something that has marvelous resorts, but it also has another side, which is where people live in the country, and it has a lot of informal settlements because of the growth of the population. And those informal settlements produce a lot of potential problems for the population living there, right? So you have a scarcity of land and lack of land titles. The informal settlement happen, as you can see in the picture, and that provides also spatial inequality. You can see in this picture totally what is the difference between one side of the picture and the other, and what happens when you live in the part where everybody is assassinated, right? and the difference in services and quality of life is noticeable. But you have a problem with land titles and information because you don't know exactly what's happening for the city services. But then you have problems with global climate change that are increasing disasters, especially flash flooding in the area, right? And you're having more. The more informal settlements there are, the more problems you have with responding to disasters of actually being affected by them. But you also have pressure on the different services. Sorry, before I go to the next. And you see in the formal settlements, you still need to serve them with solid waste management. You still need to serve them with education. You need to serve them with health. And that is more and more challenging when, as a city official, you don't have the information, you don't know what is needed or what is happening. And particularly for disaster, it's very difficult to do preventive measures in that case or adaptation. So one of the solutions we explore in this case, a World Bank team that was working on the field in Zanzibar was to leverage drones together with data analysis to do a rapid solution for Zanzibar and the city officials. Now, this is not science fiction, it's something that can be done and has been done several places, but the interesting thing here is you have a challenge that was really putting pressure on city officials, and they took the chance of exploring a new methodology and new technologies to go through it. So basically what the team did is started to, starting totally low technology, low key, just with a lot of enumerators that were volunteers from universities to start mapping manually with tablets all these informal settlements and start looking at the buildings, at the drainage systems and other physical assets to start identifying what were the situation of these informal settlements. And getting that information was the first pass. Then they combined that data with whatever land surveys and household data they had. Now that was not perfect and it was not enough. So the other thing they needed is satellite images. They could find some, but they were in some cases very expensive, and especially to update constantly because usually you only have updated for long periods of time, and they needed more constant updates, especially when there were flash flooding happening. So what they did is to start leveraging drones and leveraging small drones to add mapping of these areas in addition to what they had, and starting putting those maps on a regular 2 weeks or 3 weeks basis at a very, very low cost. Now, these drones that you see here are usually very affordable and can be done easily for these projects for a municipality. It doesn't cost a big amount and can be piloted like a toy. I mean, it's not a big difference. Especially the big one takes a little bit more, but the smaller ones are really, really like a toy that you saw the kids playing with. So that's something that can be developed. Now, the interesting thing of this case is the solution was provided this way. It was a solution that was affordable. It allowed the city officials to gather the data in real time that they needed to make decisions and start acting, especially in the course of disaster risk management and planning for the flash flooding. Then they give them more information to start looking at services for the informal settlement. But in addition to that, what you're seeing in this picture is then what happened is they started creating a new industry for Zanzibar. And that new industry was about developing the drones locally, and started working on can there be local companies that can do it, and also starting to develop new employment because they started generating what is the pilots of drones and an industry of drones. So not only you have a solution of an urban challenge, you also have a generator of growth and employment for the city and beyond the city. So this is just a highlight of a little bit of this case that can help us then in our conversation in the Q&A. And this is basically what you have right now in Zanzibar after this project that took a year. And I'm happy to discuss more details after that in our panel. So I think with this, we finish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. This case study is very, very useful with low cost and high impact. And this developing countries case in Tanzania may be applicable to, I believe this is applicable to Asian countries as well. So thank you very much for your presentation. And we will come back to the discussion time later on. Next is, can I turn to Alison? Are you ready?
Thank you. Yes, I'll just pull up my presentation. Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I need to go back to the beginning, so apologies. Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at today's pre-event. This afternoon, I'll be discussing ADB's ASEAN Australia Smart Cities Trust Fund and some of the activities that we have supported on smart cities in the ASEAN region. So just to give an overview of the AASCTF, it's a 5-year project. We started last year in 2019, and the program will run until the end of 2024. We have about almost $14 million US to support the program through Australian co-financing. And the program really has 3 pillars to help ASEAN countries in the region adopt digital solutions to improve key functional areas in cities. The first area focuses really on urban city planning systems. So using, for example, digital technologies to improve urban planning, such as development of digital twins. The second pillar is focusing on using digital technologies to support service delivery. So how to use those smart technologies to support improve, say, water, solid waste management, and so on. And then the final pillar is financial management. So using digital technologies to improve, say, city revenue collections, payment systems to make it easier for citizens to make payments, and so on. And then we have 3 cross-cutting themes focusing on gender equity, social inclusiveness, and climate change. The outputs of the program are really on capacity development. So we have a big focus on regional knowledge sharing. So between sharing learning experiences between countries in the region, I very much hope we draw on experience from Japanese smart cities, which have a wealth of knowledge to share. Partnership support through twinning arrangements, and then finally through investment projects to really scale up pilot ideas and create demonstration projects to promote smart cities. And the other objectives basically to identify scalable and replicable best practices in ASEAN. So we have about 24 cities covered under the project. You might notice that many of these cities are also ASEAN Smart City Network cities. So there's some overlap, particularly, for example, Yangon, Battambang, Makassar, Ho Chi Minh City are all part of the ASEAN Smart Cities Network, but there's not a perfect overlap. So we tend to also engage and work in countries and cities where we already have projects. And we have differing levels of engagement. So I'm not sure whether you can see in the slide, but the highlighted blue cities are where we aim to really engage with pilot projects and demonstration projects. So Yangon, Battambang, Quezon, Hue, Baguio, and Makassar. And then for the other cities, we'll be looking at capacity development through regional knowledge sharing events, as well as city twinning arrangements. I'll focus in on 3 of our cities to discuss COVID response. So under the program, in response to, as a result of COVID, one of the activities the Trust Fund carried out this year was looking at how cities were using digital technologies to respond to the COVID pandemic. And a lot of cities around the region are doing many, many different interesting things to apply digital technology to contract tracing and so on. And we chose 3 of these cities to really showcase their efforts and create videos in terms of what they're doing. So as part, just to conclude my presentation, I'll be showing a short video on Makassar and their COVID response and using digital technologies to enhance that. So I hope this works.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, across Asia, national governments have reacted swiftly to support citizens' safety and livelihoods. Local governments and utility companies have developed new approaches to cope with emergency situations. In Makassar, a quick local response involving the use of protective equipment and disinfection reduced the spread of the disease.
Alhamdulillah, terkait dengan penanganan kesehatan, kami semua bekerja sama dari seluruh stakeholder yang ada di Kota Makassar, sampai kepada tingkat RT dan RW. Di situ kita memulainya bagaimana semua lapisan masyarakat itu bergerak. Dan alhamdulillah, sekarang RO-nya kita tinggal 1,9. Artinya, satu orang dapat menularkan 2 orang.
During COVID-19, Makassar has been testing new technology to analyze the spread of the virus to support emergency planning. The Future Cities Lab developed a tool to show the spread of the virus in Makassar. Data collected from mobile emergency units were plotted on a digital map to identify pandemic hotspots. Pandemic hotspots coincided with high population density. The pandemic developed fast in areas with slum and low access to clean water.
We use this technology, at least to gather data, educate people, do a campaign and so on. We really need this technology because we cannot really interact physically with others. I think at the city level, we need to have a good comprehensive smart city plan.
The city of Makassar aims to become a smart and livable city. Through the years, ADB has worked with the city of Makassar on projects related to slum alleviation and the improvement of wastewater management. Through the ASEAN Australia Smart Cities Trust Fund, we, together with the Australian government, are able to support cities throughout Southeast Asia, improving their service delivery, planning and financing using digital and smart technologies. Activities of the Trust Fund may focus on how cities can better engage with citizens and private sector and how to improve inclusion and accountability.
Thank you. So I can go into more detail during the question and answer phase of this project, but that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. It is great to know that this ASEAN Australia Smart Cities Trust Fund is helping, to tackle with COVID-19 in ASEAN countries. So thank you very much for your presentation. Next, I'd like to turn to Dr. Picha. Please, it's your turn now.
Thank you. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Kudo-san, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to join this pre-event panel today. We have been listening about the initiative and also the project related to the smart city that's launched by World Bank and also ADB within the different region and also within Asia. Today, I'm more likely just to highlight the ADBI activities. What is it that we have been doing just to promote the smart city concept and also implementation in the Asia and the Pacific. There's two main activities that we have been collaborated with City of Yokohama. So the first one is the one that we already aware of, the Asian Smart City Conference, which we have been the co-hosted with the City of Yokohama since 2017. And this conference actually offered the format that consisted of the three main activities. So if you see here, the first one is the knowledge sharing platform. It's basically just to gather all the experts to come to the conference. By ADBI, actually, ADBI invited the city representative and also the government official in emerging Asia countries to come to the conference, to give them an opportunity just to gain the knowledge that would just help them to adopt the new solution for the urban planning and the development. Together with that, the conference also offered a business matching platform, which provide opportunity for public-private partnership. This platform very important in terms of trying just to get all these new solution idea to come into tangible outcome, and that is provide opportunity for businesses to answer the demand from city representative and also the government official. The last one is the opportunity that they offer as a networking venue that bring in government official, city representative, as well as their businesses and experts in the related area to exchange their view as well as experiences and best practices that they could just use moving forward to the smart city. One of the activity that actually very specific we have organized in a very specific area is the training workshop on the solid waste management. So this workshop has organized last year in December. ADBI invited the city representative as well as related government official from developing country in Asia and the Pacific to join the workshop. So we separate the activity into two parts. The first part is just knowledge sharing and also the presentation about the new solution that could possibly adopted by the government official at the training workshop. So and after that, we offer them the opportunity to have the field visit at the Yokohama waste management site. This provide the first-hand experiences to the government official who join this workshop, just to learn from the operators who actually at the site what they're doing and all the process along the way, so that they grab a sense of what actually happening and going on and what would be good for to be adopted into their city system. And after the workshop, ADBI also produced the policy brief that highlight the key knowledge and key main point from the training workshop. And we hope that people can use this policy brief as a reference moving forward in case they want to research more in this area or want to be able just to come back to this document when developing their policy framework. Well, what exactly the outcome of the ADBI activity that we have done and see as the concrete outcome that benefit the government official that we invited to the training workshop and the conference. As I mentioned earlier, the knowledge sharing platform is something that we're trying just to help the government official in the region to come up with, to understand and gain the knowledge about the solution that could help them develop their city moving forward smart, green, and safe city. And together with that, we would like just to make sure that this knowledge could just transform into the practical and also operational outcome. So that's why the PPP or the public-private partnership is trying to encourage that through the business matching platform to give an opportunity that the business and the company can introduce the technology or the tool or digitalization, digital tools that could help the government official to match their demand when they want to develop and to implement that solution toward the smart city. So at the end, we aim for the outcome that the government official would be able to decide the comprehensive policy framework that will deliver the sustainable urban planning and development. What a very good example that we could just get from our training on the solid waste management is that once in the government official or the policymaker, they return to their home country, they decide to further develop their SWM or the solid waste management policy. Very important or significant outcome that we can see, we can show here as an example is the city of Da Nang in Vietnam. The city has set the goal of 12% recycling of the solid waste, municipal waste. So to achieve that 12% goal, they launched the pilot project in partnership with the other government official, other government agency, and also the private sector. And they also formed the SWM committee just to engage all the stakeholders to listen to their feedback during the planning process. Together with that, they want to make sure that all the local residents are aware of this plan and the solid management process. So they do the knowledge dissemination through the training, also the briefing at the public venue, like City Hall or the school meeting. Together with that, they also developing the guidebook on the waste separation to be disseminated to the local resident. The same approach is being taken by the city of Mandalay in the Philippines. The mayor of Mandalay City has approved the establishment of a technical working group that consists of the representative from the board member offices, and they are tasked to provide the cost structure of the SWM plan to be incorporated in the city budget, annual budget. So that's more like the outcome that we could see, that the policymaker, the city representative, and the government official that we invited to ADBI activity, they actually they are now doing something moving forward to a smart city and also the green city. So moving forward, what exactly the ADBI are planning just to do? Of course, we are very keen to strengthen our partnership with the City of Yokohama, ADB, and other international organizations and local agencies to support the development of the smart city in Asia and the Pacific. Together with that, we will put more effort for the knowledge dissemination and also trying just to expand the coverage in terms of the topic that would be related to help develop the new solution for a smart city. Together, when it comes to the coverage, we want to make sure that we're trying to include more of the city representative in emerging Asia economies to participate in the activity. Last but not least, we are very keen to further develop the new knowledge product in collaboration with our partners, and also trying to come up with the capacity training, capacity building and training approach that could be effective enough and interactive enough to bring in the smart city development, and as well as its concrete and tangible outcome. So Kudo-san, I stop here and happy just to answer any question or comment later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Picha-san. Thank you very much for your great presentation. Yes, so having said so, we like to turn to the discussion time, and we have all the presentation that you have done have a lot of good points that we need to discuss. But if we discuss all the points, then we never end the session. So I may have to pick some of the discussion points. And once I give you the discussion points, I would like Victor, then Alison, and Picha-san in turn to speak like 3 or 4 minutes, and you can relate to your presentation. My first question is, what is the most important factor in terms of creating smart city in Asia? Since this is an Asia Smart City Conference, so I like to go back to the Asia. And are there any similar points among successful smart cities? It's always difficult to define what successful is, but I like to use this term. you know. So let's start with Victor.
Thank you, Kudo-san. So let me try just to give an answer to this from our experience in the portfolio working with disruptive technologies in general in cities and also digital technologies, right? So I think there are two factors that are very important. The first one is to have the political will at the highest level, right? Especially from the mayor. But that's very important, but usually it's not enough. The other one you need is to also have the buy-in of the workforce of the city to understand that this is something that they want to do and they are pushing for it. Because the main issue we have found in the projects where we implement disruptive technologies with cities is the absorption and the capacity to leverage the technology. It's not so much about the technology. The technology, there are many options now, and it can be obtained from different vendor suppliers, and it's not the main issue right now. I mean, of course, it's challenging. You have to avoid vendor lock-in and things like that. I mean, there are several things you need to look at, but it is more about how do you use that technology, and do you have the capacity in your team to implement it? And there is a political will to make the changes, because any adoption of disruptive technology is going to bring institutional changes. And if you see, for instance, Singapore is constantly changing. They have, they call it these commandos, which is these technology leads that go department from department, just to train the departments into how to use technology and how to change the systems that they are using with technology. Because it's not about implementing the technology to do the same, it's to do it differently and more efficiently. So you need to change how you do things, and the workforce needs to know how to do that first, needs to understand how to do that. Otherwise, you end up with this problem we had with computers at the beginning. We were sending computers for classrooms, and the computers were there, and the teachers were not using them because they didn't know how to use them, right? So you want to avoid that. And the second part is, once the system is understood and there is capacity in the population, in the workforce, the willingness to implement it, and the leadership to do it at the mid-management level, and the willingness to do those organizational changes, because there will be a way of changing the work you do and the organization does, and sometimes changing the organization in itself. And doing that, we found, is the most challenging part. Actually, we have very good examples from Indonesia in terms of how do you leverage technologies to do more urban planning services and delivery with data, urban decision-making with data. And that implies first to get that data, but then to use it, and then to change the way you were working by using that data and be informed by that. That, for us, the most difficult thing has been to change the structure and to get the capacity and then change the structure internally to absorb that. And we have very good practices in Indonesia. There is a project which is called Planet City Lives, which provides a platform for that. But we realize what they provide the most is training and the ability to use that training and leverage open data sources that are there and software that is there, and then how to then change the organization. And the best thing is that someone that already have done it trains yourself. So that's the reason, for instance, partnering with cities here in Japan is very good, because they have done it. They are practitioners, and they can relate to the practitioners in other countries and vice versa. And they can talk about what worked, what didn't work, and how to do it in different manners. So I think those were, for us, very important issues for implementing successfully these kind of projects.
What is I just want to ask you one question with regards to training. I think this is very critical, but also it is very difficult to train the workforces. What's the elements that is needed, and what can Japan or Yokohama City can help to promote the training?
Yeah. So that's a very good question on that part, because training is like this word, like a buzzword. We say training, but what's the real training when you go on the field, right? And that is something that it needs to be in a way that is understood by the local workforce, and they relate to, and they accept and want to go through it. And because most of these technology changes will have a consequence in changing their job and their organization, it is not as easy as just doing a workshop. There is behavioral change that needs to be managed. And there is a process of absorption that has to be done little by little by practicing and working together. So just doing workshops by themselves usually doesn't have the effect you are looking for. It's just an introduction, and it's okay to familiarize about the knowledge. But if you are looking for getting those changes and getting that absorption, it requires working together with, for instance, another practitioner city that has gone through the same challenges. Coming here, seeing how it works, going there, building the relationship, building the trust among the teams, and then understanding that we are in this together and we are going towards the same goal. That usually works very well. There are other ways of doing this with design thinking and behavioral change, where you just start working in co-creation together with the teams, understanding where are their pain points and where are the issues that personally they need to solve. There is another technique, and that's the one I referred to by Singapore with the commandos that they have, which basically is very similar to what the US did with Code for America. You just send a person, embed them in the city official team to bring the technologies and help the team working there embedded just to support everyone and familiarize from the inside and working together. Kobe is doing that now with Code for Japan, and it's also effective. So there are different techniques, but all of them require time and investment and building relations. At the end, we are all humans, right? So at the end, you need to do that. So the soft part ends up being very, very important.
Thank you very much. So next, I'd like to turn to Alison, please.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree with many of the points that Victor has made, particularly the point on leadership. I think it's critical that a city wanting to become a smart city has really a long-term vision that extends beyond the political cycle, because city authorities tend to think in short 4 or 5 year cycles, but building the capacity and the vision to become a smart city takes time. Also, having that strategy and plan in place is critical, because we have to remember that becoming a smart city doesn't mean using technology for technology's sake. It's really identifying the problems and the urban challenges that cities are facing. And we heard about in the presentations earlier, some of the huge urban challenges that cities in the ASEAN region are facing. And it's about looking at how to solve those challenges and how can technology enable us to solve those better or more efficiently. So having that plan and that leadership in place to really look through the urban challenges and look for where technology can fit in and enhance is critical. I think also related to that is having the basic systems, governance, infrastructure in place as well is quite critical. Technology can enhance what's there, but if you're missing critical things like, say, in a solid waste management system, yes, you can put sensors in a garbage receptacle, which will enable more efficient collection systems, because the sensors can transmit data in real time to indicate when a bin needs to be emptied. But if your basic solid waste management services aren't even functioning, or a city doesn't have the collection vehicles to provide good services, then it's challenging. So I think that one of the key points, successful cities get the basics right and have the foundation in place, and then they can build on that to be a smart city. The other key critical, I think, point is a city has to be citizen focused. Again, we have to be solving problems that people see as priority challenges to be solved, and people need to be engaged early in problem identification. They need to be involved in identifying solutions. There needs to be trust and buy-in. We've seen in cases where, for example, in a smart city, there hasn't necessarily been a framework in place for digital data privacy or intellectual property, and people just generally don't trust systems. And if you don't trust systems for data collection, then they won't be effective. For example, with traffic management, smart devices for managing traffic, if people aren't inputting the choke points on the road, they're not there's no uptake for the apps, then the technology itself won't be successful. And so remembering that smart cities are not more about technology, but it's more about the people, I think it has been a critical success factor for many smart cities to get that user uptake and acceptance. And then just finally, I think we might come to this later, but partnership, I think that's another key success factor. No city can go alone, whether that's partnership between cities, as we heard of twinning, working with other mature smart cities, learning from their experiences, how they've done things in practice, and using that experience to learn and implement in the region. But also partnerships with academia and the private sector is critical, because although governments have that key role in setting the vision, in coordinating strategies, they don't necessarily have the capacity, the expertise, or know-how, or even financing, which the private sector can bring in, as well as on the knowledge side, research institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Alison, I think you threw good keywords like urban challenges, as well as I think the trust of the people, which is I think a very, very fundamental key success factors, I think, in the smart cities. Of course, success is very difficult to define, but I think yes, this is quite critical, I think. And Yokohama City has been coping with urban challenges, and they have successful experiences in handling those and solving those social agendas. So Yokohama City, I think, is ready to help those urban challenges. But this digital challenges is a new one, and we are currently facing right now at the same time. So I agree that data privacy and all those things that relates to trust is vital factors. So thank you very much. Then Picha-san, please.
Thank you, Kudo-san. So I think I agree on most of the point that are already addressed by Victor and also Alison. So I don't have much just to add in. But what I just like to highlight is it's very important if that the society recognize and also aware of actually there's like a social and environmental problem that happening that's from urbanization or rapid urbanization, particularly in the developing Asia. So with an increased population coupling with the rapid urban build-up, it can put a lot of stress in the municipality or the city itself. So with the recognition that they have, then it could bring that could bring to the mayor or the authorities that could just flag and hopefully encourage more political will for them just to move this initiative forward. And like just to maybe just reiterate Alison's point again, when it's come to, you have to listen to people feedback and everything. Just as I mentioned in one of the sample in my presentation, it's very important to have collective decision making that involve other stakeholders when we formulate the comprehensive framework for urban planning and also development for the smart city. Or this acceptance by the community of the society can also boost the chance of success development toward the smart city concept, and also as well as the implementation. So I think that's just the point from my side. Thank you. Kudo-san, you're still mute.
I'm sorry, you had to read my lips. So collective decision making, I think you mentioned the keyword, and I know that Alison and also Victor, touched upon a kind of a leadership, strong leadership from the top, like a mayor. So when you say collective decision making, you're talking about the decision making at the citizens level or a little bit higher? Which body are you talking about?
I mean, it's just more like just to put everything at every layer together. Because if you remember, it's the example of Da Nang City that they actually have the committee just to get the feedback from the community not just disseminate the knowledge, but also try to get the input from the community during the planning process. So I think if the bottom is the bottom of the community, they cannot accept these changes, or they don't trust, like what Alexander said, this maybe could be problematic in a way, just to move this forward and make a success from the implementation of the framework.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I have the last question to you, starting from Victor again. And due to the time frame, we may have a couple of minutes for each of you to answer this question. And what is the strengths and difficulties when private sectors and government are creating smart cities together? And I know that you are from international organizations, so you may have a third opinion, but you know, I'm looking forward to hearing your answer or comments. So Victor, it's your turn.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, working with private organizations bring very good opportunities, right? I mean, it's very difficult for the private sector first to know what are the best technologies and to identify them. I think that's something that the private sector can bring much more dynamic, in a much more dynamic way. But the question is, how do you identify who is the private sector, right? Private sector is everything, right? So you go from startups to big, large corporations, and that is, I think, one issue. Number one is how to identify what is the best solution for the problem, and that's something that the private sector has and can identify good for you. Sometimes, other times, can have biases. So that brings one issue that requires more information sharing in a more neutral way, I think. And initiatives like the Smart City Institute help in that regard, because you promote concepts more openly and can develop the debates in a way that can be also helping, informing in general. I think on the side of private sector, there are risks on the public sector that they don't know about, and then that can make difficulty the situation. One of them is the technology evolution goes very, very fast. So we've encountered problems with vendor lock-in of solutions that then probably weren't the best ones for the long term, but there were some inexperience in working with contracts and long-term, and lack of flexibility on some private sector sometimes doesn't help. So more education on those things are needed. But in essence, the main issues you will face is how do you work together better with the private sector to take advantage of the technologies that are available in the private sector, because the private sector role is to find those technologies and make the best out of them. I mean, the public sector can never have the ingenuity and the dynamism of the startups that we are seeing right now, or the companies we are seeing right now, and developing, for instance, the example of drones. And if you see in that example, the public sector ended up being a catalyzer of private sector and developing of this new entrepreneurship, right? To bring more solutions that were local together with private sector that was foreign, and building it together, accessing the global market. So I think now, especially with digital technologies, you have access to the global market. And the question is, how do you work together better with the private sector without being scared about it, but just asking more and having more information and informing yourself better. And if you need help about that, because your team doesn't have that capacity within the city, instead of being scared, you can ask for help in these, for instance, international institutions or other cities that you trust, or within the central government, or other partners that are reliable. But I wouldn't be scared of working with the private sector because of the challenges. To the contrary, I would just see it as how can we alleviate these issues. And in general, it's very positive, and it's the way to go, because they are the ones that have the solutions and know the best ones to apply and more efficient.
Thank you. Alison, please.
Thank you. I think that's a great question, and I think as Victor said, it's critical that the public sector and the private sector work together. It's the public sector, I think, that identifies the problems, be it need for improvement in the quality and coverage of urban services, but it's really the private sector that will bring the innovation and the technologies to solve those problems. And I think we've seen a lot of cities, it's becoming really common for cities to put out challenges to the private sector. They put out, here's the problem, and they seek solutions to address that problem. And that's where you can bring in the private sector ideas and innovation. I think one of the challenges as well is just within the public sector, there's just not nearly enough technological skills. The public sector needs basic knowledge of technology or tech knowledge to be able to evaluate smart cities proposals. And I think that's maybe one area that's lacking. So really boosting the skills and knowledge within the public sector to be able to work with the private sector, and not just skills, but also shifting mindsets as well. So, in evaluating public projects, maybe bringing in multi-benefits, like smart street lighting, for example, may not just provide lighting, but it could provide security, it could enable smart parking systems. It requires a whole skill set to evaluate multiple benefits from that smart technologies can bring. And then I think also just being able to, for the private sector, the public sector and the private sector work quite differently. It's almost sometimes like they don't talk the same language. So I think also on the private sector side, learning to navigate and work within government systems is sometimes challenging. So also having dedicated people who know government to build on that partnership. And I think many cities realize that more and more. We're seeing different entities and bodies that bring together the public sector, the private sector, and academia to work through solutions and challenges. So I think it is a must for public and private sector to work together, and it's just about finding the best ways to do that and what the enabling factors are to really enhance those partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think there's a kind of a collaboration between government and businesses. So GB to GB is, I think this, the partnership is quite important. So thank you very much. Thank you. And Picha-san, please, it's your turn.
Yeah, I think we are in agreement that the challenge is more like the knowledge gap that we have, not only what Lisan mentioned about the lack of skill from the public sector side, but also like from the private sector side. Like even though they have such a new solution, everything, they also have this sort of asymmetric information on both sides. For example, like if the government official or the public sector actually have a demand for some certain solution or something that can just fit their problem, they don't really know how to find those sort of solution or where to find it. But at the same time, in terms of the private sector, it could be possibly that they have all this technology available or the solution that they like to offer, but at the same time, they don't really know who actually need this solution or this digital or technology to fit the problem that they have. So I think what I mentioned earlier is the business matching platform. That's one of the things that we can just promote the public-private partnership and try to collaborate between the two sectors and reduce those challenges for the smart city development. So I don't have much just to add at the moment because I think everybody already mentioned the important point. So thank you.
Thank you. So yes, I think Picha-san, you touched upon a very important part. So at this upcoming ASCC main event in January, we are going to open now about the new business matching system so that you can register the information of the company, private companies, as well as the municipalities, so that they can register their needs, what they want to solve, the social agendas, and solution providers can put their technologies, into the business matching system. So it is very important that we have those information together for the successful business matching, because sometimes there is a gap between the information and but since we are using this online system, so it's going to be very efficient. So we would like your cooperation for the information that we can provide for the business matching. and we will keep in touch for that. So thank you very much, and we have time. So before we close, can I have just each of you one word before we close? So starting from Victor again.
We just say thank you very much for the invitation and for this pre-event. We look forward to the actual ASEAN Smart City Conference to discuss these issues in more detail. And thank you also to my co-panelists. It was very interesting to discuss with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Alison?
Thank you very much, Kudo-san, for the opportunity to be here to speak. It's been, I think the discussion's been really interesting, and yeah, looking forward to the main event. Thank you.
Picha-san?
So I'd like just to thank my co-panelists and also Kudo-san as an excellent moderator for today's panel. And I'm really looking forward just to strengthen our collaboration with the City of Yokohama and also the ADB and the World Bank, just to move this initiative on and spread it the smart city in the Asia and the Pacific. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So we look forward to seeing you again soon. But this pre-event just started. So if you like, please stay and watch other, sessions too. And also, we look forward to collaborating with you at the main event. I know that you have some sessions to, to perform at the main event. So we will keep in touch. So thank you very much for the session today. And we all looking forward to seeing you soon at the main event, as well as this pre-event. So thank you very much. And I'd like to turn to, close this session. So thank you very much, Victor, Alison, and Picha-san.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, we are Secretariat at ASEAN Smart City Conference. We are having a main event on Monday, January 18th, 2021. Please register from the QR code on the slide. And this is the end of session 2. The session 3 will start at 4:40. So please stay tuned and have a break.